Look, I don't need to know your name. I'm Cornelius Noakes. You can call me Mr. Noakes. And all I need to know about you is you volunteered for this. And I guess things must have been pretty rough for you out there. But compared to the shit in here...
Cornelius Noakes is one of the few helpful people that Reagents will encounter during their stay at the Sinyala facility in the game The Outlast Trials. A talented engineer who's been hired on at Murkoff to work on experimental special operations platforms, commonly referred to as rigs. Noakes is being held by the company against his will, and to his great dismay. He yearns for escape, but has long since given up on that hope for himself, instead passing off that wavering possibility onto the unfortunate Reagents, who come to use his services.
God damn. You're still alive. I mean, don't nothing hurt like hope. But you might actually get out on the other side of this shit. You gotta stop playing their game. I mean, you gotta play their game, but not play their game. They're trying to change your ass. You know that, right?
The story of Cornelius Noakes as we know it begins with sporadic details of his past. He and his brother Lamar had been born into a home with its fair share of issues, evidenced by his father walking out on them when they were young. Despite this setback, however, Cornelius was determined to make something of himself, and would sign up for the military around the time of the Second World War. Most of this time in the military would see him working on aircraft like the North American X-15, but that doesn't mean he didn't see his share of fighting. Noakes would be one of the roughly 15,000 US and Canadian soldiers who would see combat against the Japanese at the Battle of Aitu in Alaska, a conflict that would weigh heavy in his mind as he continued his life moving forward. After the war, Noakes would find his way to Franklin Lanes, New Jersey, where he would begin to settle down and form a family. He would find a fiancée, and together they would get a dog, which he would name Tango. His work as an engineer would make him travel quite often, but despite his busy schedule, he would keep in close contact with his fiancée, as well as his brother back in Cincinnati. That is, until 1958, when he would land a job that he would never return from.
Do you think I'd still be here if I had a choice? I thought I was just doing another job. Do a couple of months, make some money, then go back to Franklin Lakes. Then I have a drink on the plane, and next thing I know, I wake up in the desert.
While traveling on a plane in transit to his next job, Noakes would be drugged and find himself waking up in an unfamiliar desert. And though we're not exactly privy to the details, this unexpected turn of events would wind up with him occupying the desk of Project Lade's engineer. The circumstances of his arrival and the force of this unexpected new position would obviously cause a deep stress and paranoia in the mind of Sinyala's newest employee. He'd been brought on to replace another man by the name of Cecil Myers, and after a bit of digging into what exactly happened to his predecessor, he came to the conclusion that Cecil had escaped the only way a prisoner can. This revelation only serving to cause more fear and desperation as the time ticked by and there seemed to be no hope of escape or even contact with the outside world. On top of that, Murkoff would seemingly begin to play games with him. All of the components for his work would come wrapped in newspaper, but none newer than 1956, 2 years before he'd got on a plane and would land himself in this place to begin with. One day, he would wake up to find his dog from back in New Jersey, Tango, stuffed with sawdust and sitting right beside the chair he'd been occupying for who knows how long, as well as a sign from his time back working on X-15s in the military. However, the worst of it were that these things were actually getting to him. At times, he would talk to Tango as if he weren't taxidermy. He would question what year he was even living in, and even question if he really made it off the beaches of Aitu on that fateful day back in 1943. Despite these fears and paranoias, though, he would continue on, working in a room that was feeling more and more by the day like a tomb. Cornelius Noakes is one of the most hopeful yet sad people that can be found on the grounds of Murkoff's Sinyala facility. a brilliant man who's being brought to his knees for the shadowy needs of an evil organization. Forced to come to grips with the fact that he'll never see his brother nor his fiancée again, Cornelius can only pass along wishful hopes that perhaps a compassionate reagent will one day escape and tell them that he didn't abandon them. A hope that becomes more fanciful by the minute as he watches all humanity slowly drain from the eyes of those lucky enough to even survive Murkoff's crushing trials.
You've changed. I'm not sure you even know what it is you're doing, but I can see it in your eyes. I thought you might be able to get out, but you're not even here anymore. Used to be I was scared you were gonna die here. Now I'm scared you're gonna get out.